When you first start your fitness journey, one of the first questions you might ask is, should you bulk or cut first? Now, if you skinny, you might feel like you want to go ahead and put on some muscle mass. But if you skinny fat, meaning you skinny, but you still got a big belly, you might feel like you want to go on a cut first so you can get rid of that belly fat and then put on some muscle later. And you might actually be a little scared to bulk up because you think if you do, you'll put on even more fat and it'll be harder to lose all of that fat later on. But you don't want to cut because if you already skinny and then you go on a cut, then you just gonna be extra skinny. Now look, I definitely feel your pain because I was in that position where I had the dad bod, but I wasn't super huge. I was still pretty skinny overall, but I had a big belly. But I also wanted to get rid of the gut that I had. So for me personally, it just came down to which one do I want to do the most. And at the end of the day, I ended up choosing to go on a cut first. And basically, I was able to get all that fat off my stomach. But I structured my diet the right way and I was still working out, lifting weights and all that. So while I was losing that fat, I was still able to tone up a little bit. And to be 100% honest with you, I would say I'm happy with the results I got. Now, with that being said, there was a few downsides to going on a cut first, and I will talk about those in just a second. But now that I got the good results after going on a cut first, I'm transitioning into a bulking phase. And I am doing a clean bulk, so that means even though I might put on some fat, it won't be as much fat as I had on me at first. And since I already went through a cut and I know what that's like, I already know that I'm going to be able to get rid of that extra fat that I do put on. So as far as whether you should go on a cut or a bulk first, if you super skinny right now, I would say bulk up first. And the reason I say that is because if you already skinny and you start eating even less calories to try to get rid of your stomach fat or whatever other fat you're trying to get rid of, you're just going to end up having no energy. And that was one of the biggest downsides for me when I went on my cut, because once I got towards the end of my cut, I got to a point where I just always felt like I was on E. And that's because I was really at the lower end of my ideal weight range, but then I was still eating in a calorie deficit, meaning I was eating less calories than what I was burning every day. So I wasn't filling my body back up with that extra energy. And I wasn't even super skinny when I started off. I was at like 23% body fat. So if you already super skinny, then you basically gonna get to that point right away where you just feel like you don't have enough energy. So I would say go ahead and just bulk up first. But I will also say I do recommend that you go ahead and go on a clean bulk. That way you don't put on too much fat. Now, with that being said, if you're around 16% body fat or greater, and especially if you like 20% or higher, I would say go ahead and just start on a cut first. And if you're a woman, you can just add like 7 to 9% to that. But the reason I say you should go ahead and go on a cut first if you already have a little bit more fat on your body is that you're just going to start piling more fat on top of the fat that you already got. And so when it finally is time for you to cut, you're going to have to stay in that cut longer. And the longer you have to stay in the cut, the longer you have to keep resisting all those cravings that you're going to get. And that means you putting yourself in more situations where you might end up overeating and lose all your progress. But if you start with the cut first, you can go ahead and get that part over with. So that way, when you do go into your bulk, you can actually enjoy it and not have to worry about whether or not you putting on too much fat. And again, since you already done went through a cut, then once you do get into that bulk, if you do put on a little fat, you already know how to go on a cut. You know exactly how to structure your diet. And it'll be easier the second time around because you'll have more calories to work with. Now, with all of that being said, whichever one you commit to, if you don't work out consistently, and by working out, I'm specifically talking about resistance training. So you got things like lifting weights and calisthenics. If you ain't doing those things, whether you in a cut or a bulk, you just gonna put on extra fat either way. If you in a cut, you'll lose weight, but you gonna be skinny fat, meaning your muscles is gonna be a little flabby and your stomach is gonna be pudgy. Pause if that ain't sound right. And of course, if you in a calorie surplus, man, you trying to bulk up, but you ain't lifting weight consistently, or, you know, at least doing calisthenics, then obviously you just going to put on more fat. So you got to make sure you getting your workouts in. Now, one of the most common excuses I heard people say for not working out is that they don't have time to work out. So if you are somebody that feels like you don't have time to work out, then I highly suggest you check out the free guide I created. It's linked in the description of this video, and it gives you some actionable strategies you can use to fit fitness into your life and be able to balance that with work and family and whatever else you got going on. And I also did put a bonus section in there that tells you exactly how you can lose fat and build muscle at the same time. So if you do decide to go on a cut first, and I will say I think that's probably the best option for most people, then you definitely want to make sure that you're putting on muscle at that same time. So when you do get that fat off you, you'll look nice. Pause. So check that guide out that's linked in the description, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.